So I've mentioned before how bad the tick problem is in South Jersey and specifically in the Pine Barrens, but this year I feel like it's getting to a new level. I just got home from work and on the door there are, I'm gonna see if I can actually, okay, 1, 2, and a little guy right there. 3 ticks on the sliding screen door as you walk into my house. So I would say it's getting to the point of being slightly ridiculous and a little scary. So I'm gonna take a piece of tape. This is what I do. I have a piece of tape. It's the best way to grab a tick, not have to touch it, seal it in the piece of tape so it can't get away because they're really hard to kill. That's my technique. So I'm gonna go do that. Okay, there they are. You can see them a little better now. They all look like dog ticks. They're pretty big, which is why I actually saw them. If they were deer ticks, I probably wouldn't have seen them, or they just would have been able to get through the screen on the door, which is really concerning. So be careful out there. Check for ticks. The spring is a pretty busy time for us. We have a lot of hobbies, which you would know if you've seen our other videos. We do a lot of things. We go camping and kayaking, and we essentially live in a giant RV. And then we have another RV that we travel with. So we have a lot of gear, and that means a lot of maintenance. And I think this is kind of the thing that you don't often see on YouTube. You see people just kind of out enjoying all their stuff, having all this fun, and you forget that there's actually a fair amount of legwork that goes in behind the scenes to actually make all of those trips possible. And for us, that's a lot of what happens in the spring, kind of before it is nice enough to get out and really enjoy. We put a lot of time into preparing and getting everything organized so that when the time comes to get out and enjoy the best part of the year, everything is ready. So this is all about showing you the reality of the behind the scenes of what it actually goes into, like getting the camper ready and maintaining it so that 10 years from now, the Scamp is still going to be in good shape and we're still going to be able to use it because we took good care of it. One of the first things that we do is take some time to wash the Scamp. And as someone said to us, the Scamp is kind of like 2 boats stuck together, the 2 different halves of the fiberglass, which is great because it means the Scamp is more resistant to leaks than your average RV, but it means that the care of it is just slightly different. So we actually use boat products when we're washing and waxing the Scamp because it's essentially the same fiberglass material that makes up a boat. We never actually put the cover on the Scamp this winter just because we were hoping to get one more trip in and it didn't happen. So we had to clean the roof a little bit better. It definitely makes a difference having the cover on. But once it was really clean, then Pat put on this layer of marine wax. And we were fortunate because his brother Andy has this industrial buffer that he was using to put the wax on and finish that coat so that it was really super shiny. It looked almost brand new by the time he was done, and that buffer really saves a lot of time and effort in the whole process. After the fiberglass was cleaned and waxed, the tires got a cleaning, and then we turned our attention to the outer plastic liner around the windows. So we put plastic conditioner on this, usually once a season, just to make sure that it doesn't get dry or cracked, especially because this area gets a lot of sun exposure and we want to make sure that this is something that lasts for a long time. So putting a little plastic conditioner on here can really help keep the windows looking new, but it makes sure that they don't break. This is probably not the most fun part of owning an RV, but if you want it to last for a long time, these little maintenance things are what's going to keep it working for the long term. While we were getting all this work done, of course, Redford was doing his job of supervising and keeping an eye on everything. The other day, Pat noticed the Scamp had a little bit of a propane leak. Actually, we were suspecting it a while ago, and then he definitely just confirmed it. So he did a couple little repair things out here.
So I had to make a couple repairs on the Scamp. Actually, the gas lines from the propane. I knew there was definitely a leak on this one because I would turn it on and I could see the gas gauge moving just a little bit, and it was emptying way too fast. So I sprayed some soapy water on the connections, and sure enough, bubbles were coming out. And this is where the weak part was. So I had to replace this whole line here. I actually replaced both of them because I was like, hey, I checked this one, so why not check the other one? Sure enough, I found more leaking spots for this one. Actually, it was right here. It was all dry rotted. So I had to take out the old ones and put these back in. And don't forget, you have to use thread tape to make sure you get a good seal. Just keep in mind, RVs are constantly moving, so you're going to have weak points, and just systems like this probably at least once a year, probably a good idea just to spray some soap on it, soapy water, and see if you have anything leaking.
We have down sleeping bags that we use when we go backpacking or when we do some more serious camping. And the last couple seasons we haven't used them, unfortunately, but it's just kind of how things worked out. We've been focusing more on the Scamp, and that's been fine. But this season we really want to get some trips in where we actually use our sleeping bags. And we decided it's probably time to clean them. They were a little gross. So I sort of forgot that down is very particular, and you can't just use any old detergent, and you can't just throw them in any old washing machine. You have to be really particular. You need a certain type of down safe detergent so that you don't ruin your down, and you want to use a washing machine that does not have an agitator, because otherwise it can put too much wear and tear on your sleeping bag, and definitely don't want that. At the beginning of this season, we pull all of our camping gear out of the bins and do a little assessment of what needs to be fixed or what we need to update. And that was when we decided it was time to take the sleeping bags and wash them. We went to the laundromat because we have a very small washing machine in the tiny house. Why? So there's the clean sleeping bags. This was a whole process. So there they are in their bag. They're storage bags. Red is fluffing them up extra.
He's helping.
But I kind of forgot because we haven't washed these in a few years. Well, we didn't use them at all last year, sadly. But you can't use regular soap on down. So we got the special down wash. And we did our down jackets and our sleeping bags. And I have a down vest. And after we clean everything... Oh, hi, Red. Oh, no, it's not for you. It's not for you. After we clean everything, we have to respray it with waterproofing, especially our tents. So we'll do our tents, our jackets, and a couple other pieces of gear to make sure that they just have a little bit more protection. So it's a solar protector, and it also makes them a little bit more water repellent. The project that I'm working on now is making these little spice packets that are going to go into our cook set for our backpacking stuff, but then also for like our day trips. We keep a bin in the Jeep with all of our stuff ready to go, so if we're like out, we can just stay out and cook food or make coffee. So I got these little tiny plastic bags that I can put small amounts of spices in, so we can have them with us, and for our backpacking stuff it won't be too heavy. So mostly just salt, pepper, garlic, salt, nutritional yeast, curry. Those are the things that kind of you can throw into anything, and it's going to give it a little more flavor so you can enjoy it. I ended up putting a few of these bags in the Scamp as well because it's a great way to have more variety of spices so that your food is more flavorful without taking up a bunch of room or having somewhere where you have to store the actual containers for the spices. But mostly this is going to be for a backpacking trip, and our big thing this year is we want to plan a kayak camping trip, so we'll get to use those clean sleeping bags and our cooking spices. It wouldn't be spring maintenance time without something breaking. After our first trip with the Scamp, where we went into Lancaster past Philadelphia, the Scamp got rattled really hard on those bumpy roads, and afterwards we found out we were having some trouble with the electrical system. Specifically, the heater would not turn on. The furnace isn't working anymore, so Pat spent some time taking apart the electrical panel, but this is an ongoing issue that we haven't quite resolved yet. So we have a few ideas of what we're going to do. Hopefully it'll be fixed soon. One of our last projects on the spring to-do list was to get Patrick's motorcycle serviced. So we dropped it off at the BMW dealer to get its spring service and to have a couple things fixed. And of course we had a look around when we were there. We're hoping to try to fit in a couple motorcycle camping trips this year too. South Jersey has some pretty good off-road trails, some fire roads that can bring you out to some more secluded camping areas. So we're going to try to fit that in this year. We used a U-Haul trailer to bring the motorcycle up because it makes the whole process easier, and they're able to work on it faster because they don't have to wait for the engine to cool down. But all in all, we got a lot of things ready for the season, so we're looking forward to sharing quite a few different types of adventures this year. The only thing that we didn't get to do was waterproof the tent and some of our down jackets and our raincoats. It's good to re-waterproof things every so often. And the heater in the Scamp is still an ongoing issue. And what you'll find out is we thought those two things were maybe not such a big deal, but when we did our first long trip, both of those things actually came up to be an issue. So we'll keep you updated on that in our future videos.
Well, you worried about you and me, the injustice, the next president to be, the news and what you hear, your career. It's time for you to face those fears, and it's all fair to be aware, and I'll be there, so don't be scared. Just take a deep breath of air, and 1, 2, 3 to 10, you begin to focus again.